Okay guys, so before this video even continues, I mainly made this video just for Ganyu and Xiao because those are the two least had characters. But if for whatever reason you don't have Zhongli, I would definitely tell you just pull for him instead. That would be your best possible choice. And anyways, let's continue with the video. Hey, what's up everyone? As we saw from the 2.4 livestream, Xiao and Ganyu rerun will be coming. So with this in mind, free to play and low spenders are wondering which of the two characters should they pull. So with somebody that has both Xiao and Ganyu, I feel comfortable making this video to let everybody know which is better and which is actually more fun. So it's gonna go in this format. We're gonna start off with the talents and the actual usage of a character, the constellations, the weapon viability, and the artifact viability, which is also important. Then the corresponding element, we're gonna talk about whether cryo or animo is better in certain situations. Then we're gonna talk about team comps. And then finally, this one is actually very important. Probably other YouTubers won't talk about it, but I will. The replayability of each of the characters. So to understand what I mean by that, just stick around to the end. I'm going to explain. Alright, let's start off with Xiao. So as we know, he's the best main DPS in the game in terms of animo characters. But he lacks a single quality. That is being the fact that he can't do too much damage outside of his burst. But when he's in his burst, with a good team and a good build, he can hit up to 50k per plunge attack. You guys should be able to see that from the background. Then we have a skill, which is simply being a very strong animo dash that does a lot of damage. Alright, so let's top it off with his passive talent and ascension stat increase. His first passive basically increases damage while using his burst. That's the most simple explanation. Then we have the second passive, which is subsequently using your E skill will actually increase the damage of either the second or the third one if you have the first constellation. And then the last one is consumption of stamina is reduced while climbing. This is pretty decent for exploring. And the last thing to note is that his ascension stat is crit rate increased, which is one of the best possible outcomes. Anyways, now let's move on to Ganyu. Now, Ganyu has always been that one character that people praise a lot, and that's rightfully so. Let's explain. So first we have her basic attack, which is very well known for doing lots of damage, especially when you charge it up twice. This effect is known as the Frostflake Arrow, and you could just repeat it over and over, and it just keeps doing cryo damage. So we also have her skill, which is pretty good, not because of how much damage it does, but because of what it does just in general. It lures enemies away from you so that you can keep shooting them from a distance with your bow. So next is Ganyu's burst. Now this is probably, in my opinion, the best part of the kit, simply for 3 reasons. Number 1 is that it has 100% uptime, which means that the duration is 15 seconds long, but the cooldown is also 15 seconds long, which means that if you get enough energy, you could spam your burst literally forever. The second thing is that it does a lot of damage, like a very good amount, especially if it hits the enemies. And number 3 is probably my favorite reason why. When your burst is up, you have unlimited cryo applications, which pretty much means that any cryo reactions that you want to do while Ganyu's burst is up will be guaranteed. Okay, so next is her passives. So let's start off with the first one, which has to do with the Frostflake Arrow, which is the second charge attack that we were talking about earlier. And if you spam this, you pretty much have a 20% increase of crit rate for every time you use it. Now her second passive is what makes me like her burst even more. So pretty much any character that's in the field of the burst will do 20% more cryo damage. Also nothing too crazy, but when you craft a bow, 15% of the ores will be returned. And for her ascension stat, she gets a total of 38.4% crit damage when level 80 ascended. Okay, now that we've gone over this segment, let's talk about who has better abilities and overall usage. For the short answer is definitely Ganyu. Why? Well, there's actually multiple different reasons, but let's keep it simple and straight to the point. First off, Ganyu can do unlimited cryo damage, while Xiao cannot. Xiao can only do animo damage when he's in his burst mode, while Ganyu can do DPS without going into burst mode. Second off is, if we're counting bursts, Ganyu has a very broken burst that can be used whenever she wants, and even if it's not used, she can still be on field doing damage. And her passives are much better than Xiao's. As for the crit rate and crit damage increase, both of them are very good, so that's a tie in terms of that. But for everything else, Ganyu wins for this segment. Alright guys, so when it comes to this constellation segment, I want to keep it short, but to keep it simple, Xiao's C1 is pretty decent along with the C2, just because of the fact that you can only do damage when he has his burst up. So when he's off field and doesn't have his burst and actually gets more energy, that's very good. Which goes back to the C1, which is not only a damage increase, but also an energy increase, as you can use your E ability 3 times. Now we have Ganyu C1, which not only decreases the cryo resistance every time you use your double charge shot, but it also gives you 2 energy every time you do it. So it not only encourages you to do more damage, but also spam your burst even more. Now, most of you guys that are watching probably don't even care about the constellations, but I just wanted to let you guys know that a C1 Ganyu is just equal to C6 Xiao. And if you're gonna go for higher constellations on Ganyu, I would recommend either just push it completely all the way to C6 or just stay at C1. And this is where I would tell you you should get some constellations for Xiao, but I really wouldn't recommend it. So if you seriously want some constellations, just go for C1 Ganyu and that's about it. So because of the fact that a C1 Ganyu's power is equal to Xiao C6's power, I'm gonna have to give another point to Ganyu. Alright, now that we finished the constellation section, let's move on to the weapons. So as you guys can see, I created a tier list right here for the best possible weapons. We have the Primordial Jade and the Homa at SS tier. So if you have these 2 weapons, they're the best. If not, I'd personally recommend buying the Battle Pass and getting the Deathmatch. It's his best 4-star in slot. And even if you don't have those, you can use the Lithic Spear or the Royal Spear, which you can get from Paimon's Bargains in the shop, or the Vortex Vanquisher, which almost nobody has, but if you have it instead of any of these weapons on the list, then it's not a bad choice. And for the people who have none of these weapons, then you can use the White Tassel. It's his best 3-star in slot. So when it comes to Ganyu's weapons, it gets a little bit more harsh. As you can see, to do lots of damage, you need one of the 5-star weapons. But that doesn't mean that she's bad without them. The weapons on the A tier, such as the Prototype, which is craftable, and is actually very good if you shoot them at their weak spots. The Viridescent Hunt, which gives crit rate for a level up stat that can be obtained from the battle pass, and as well as the Royal Bow, which is a weapon you can get from the shop. Yet again, if you don't have these weapons, you can either choose the Recurve Bow or the Messenger, which is her best 3-star weapons in slot. So because of the fact that Xiao has better 4-star weapons in slot, especially the Deathmatch, which is obtained from the battle pass, he gets a point. So when it comes to artifact sets, we have a very big distinction between Ganyu and Xiao. To start it off, the only 3 sets that Xiao can actually use that are viable is the 2-piece of either of these sets, which is the Gladiator, the Shiminawas, and the Viridescent. So the problem is with Xiao's burst is that it's not considered as burst damage, but as plunging attack or normal attack damage. You can't use too much sets with that. Whereas for Ganyu, she can run the 4-piece Wanderers, 4-piece Noblesse, 4-piece Blizzard, even Emblem Strayer. You can even run the 2 pieces of that if you want to. You can run Shiminawa's, Gladiator. There's definitely a lot more choices for Ganyu, and because of this, she will get a point. Alright, so this is going to be the quickest segment, but it's going to be Anemo versus Cryo. So it's actually very simple. Anemo is 100% better than Cryo, but in this case, Ganyu without a doubt wins a point, simply because of the fact that she can do multiple cryo applications, while Xiao's Anemo applications do not matter whatsoever. All of those cryo applications can help the team, and speaking of teams, next section is the team comp section. So let's start off with Xiao. So obviously we know, like we explained earlier, Xiao can only be a main DPS. So when you're a main DPS, the only thing that you're able to do on the team is be on field and do damage. And if that's the case, you need characters built around you. For example, in this case, we have Sucrose as a battery. Now, if you guys don't know what a battery is, it's pretty much a character that gives energy to your main DPS. And then we have Zhongli and Albedo on the side for the Geo Resonance and extra damage. Now, another problem with Xiao is that you can't use characters like Xingqiu because you're always plunge attacking and not normal attacking. Because of this, Xingqiu's ult will not be activated and you will not be doing any damage with him. Another example is something like Raiden Shogun. She's supposed to increase burst damage for all the party members in the team, which is unfortunate for Xiao because like we said earlier, his damage is not burst damage but just a boost to your normal charge, and plunging attacks. So now that we get an idea of Xiao, he can't be a support, he's only a main DPS, and even at that case, a limited main DPS. So that means you need specific team comps in order to actually do a crazy amount of damage with team rotations. Now, when it comes to Ganyu's team comps, this is where it gets a little bit more juicy, because remember, as we said, she can be both a main DPS and support. Reason being is because her burst does a lot of cryo applications while doing damage, and on top of that, her charge attack also does a lot of damage. So because of this, Ganyu can synergize with any team that needs superconduct, melt, and reverse melt. But she would do much better in a freeze team because of the dual synergy of cryo. The only 3 characters she doesn't synergize the best with is Thoma, Xingqiu, and Beidou, because those 3 characters' ults only work with normal attacks. But even then, if you use Ganyu as a support on the team with those characters, she can still perform very well. So because of the fact that Ganyu can fit on just about every single team, unlike Xiao, she gets a point. So most of you guys are probably looking at your screen right now and trying to understand what I mean by character replayability. It's basically how fun and replayable a character is gameplay wise. And to measure this in statistics, I put up a poll 2 days ago from the time I'm recording this video on which one is more fun to play. Not stronger, but fun. And the 2 votes were Xiao and Ganyu. So out of 36,000 votes, and probably even more by the time this video is posted, 89% of players chose Xiao. This is actually a very important thing when it comes to character replayability. So as we saw earlier, Ganyu has way more points than Xiao, especially in terms of power, team comps, you know, just everything in general. Ganyu is just better, but in the end, most people think Xiao is more fun. So we've already seen the difference between Ganyu and Xiao's gameplay. But if you guys want a distinct video where it's just Xiao versus Ganyu gameplay, I have a video posted for that in the pinned comments or on the card on the top right of the video if you guys want to click on that. And hey, if you could drop a like, that would be very much appreciated. I could go up in the algorithm. And if you want to sub, that's up to you. I just make memes and guides. And yeah, see you guys next time.